Y'all know what's going on. It's time for another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker, and welcome to the show, y'all. Now check this out. Before we go any further, right, I want to do something because the way this story is playing out, I need to put names on this, right? So, of course, you already know I always change the names to protect the guilty. So here we go. You know, the dope boy that's in prison, in jail right now is Tim, and right, his girlfriend is named Lisa, and her friend is named Rochelle, okay? So that's how this is going to play out, right? Now, check this out. The PO, I'm not going to give him, you know what I'm saying, for obvious reasons, but the PO, he's over at the house now, at the apartment right now with Lisa and Rochelle, because they've hit him with a proposition, say, look, same deal, but you get me. That's Rochelle, right? She's trying to tell him that, right? But at the end of the day, he's got ideas, you know what I'm saying, that go way beyond that because he's a freaky type dude. He's a freaky type dude. And he wants Lisa and Rochelle because he's looking at it like, I got the keys to the kingdom. You want your dude home. If she wants Tim home, they're going to do whatever he wants. And that's just that on that. Now, keep in mind now, Lisa had already told Rochelle how good he was. How good he was. And all of this whole kind of stuff. Now, Rochelle, she wants to see. She wants to see. So they go into the bedroom. And then while they're in the bedroom, Rochelle, she working it. She working it. She got him laid back. She's sitting on top of it. She riding him. He killing it. He's killing it. She's leaning back into that thing. She popping it. And he's staring at it, looking at it. He's looking at it going in and out of it. And he's watching her at the same time. And she's loving every inch of it. And he's loving how it makes him feel. But he's watching. He looks up and he sees Lisa. She's standing in the doorway. And he raises up his arm. He tells her, come on. So she hesitates for a second. Then she kicks off her shoes and then she takes her clothes off. And then she goes over and she gets right over his face and she starts to kiss on him. Now, Rochelle, she's still riding him. Now, she turns around. She's riding him in the front right now so she can look at him, but she don't want to see them. So she gets up off of him and she lowers herself back down on him while she's facing away from him. Now she's riding him that way, going up and down as hard and as fast as she can while he goes in and out of her. And Lisa, she's kissing him, rubbing all over his face. He's in heaven. He thinks it can't get any better than this. So then Lisa, she gets up and she straddles his face. And she rubs that coochie all up in his face, smothering him out. Smothering him out. So he grabs her by her legs while she's over his face and he lifts her up just enough so he can lick it. And now he's having the time of his life. He's got both of them having his way with them while they're having their way with him. And this goes on for the next 20 or 30 minutes or so. Both of them get satisfied. Mainly, he gets satisfied. And they lay there in the bed and now they're all wondering, what are we doing? This started out as a way to get Tim home. That's what Lisa's thinking. But now it's turned into something else. And how is she going to tell Tim? How is this going to play out? How is he going to react to this? Is he going to be upset because she's doing this of her own free will now? Or is he going to be somebody that's appreciative of what she's doing? She don't know. And right now, she don't really care. Because right now, she's feeling good. And then she starts to tell herself he shouldn't have gone to jail. If he wouldn't have gone to jail, this would have never happened. This is what she's telling herself. Rochelle, on the other hand, she's laying there, she's thinking to herself, damn, everything is advertised. And she doesn't want to let him go. But you got to remember something. Rochelle is street too. They're talking about a parole officer. Somebody that's in law enforcement. What do? So now everything comes to the courthouse and Tim is going in front of the judge and the judge signs off of it and he remands him to this drug treatment center for 3 months. Upon completion, then these charges will be dismissed and he'll resume his probation parole as if it never happened. This is a rarity. This is a rarity. The PO is putting his name out there. He's putting his name on the line. He's putting his name on the line and his reputation. But he's hooked into this triangle just as much as Lisa and Rochelle are. So what he finds himself doing is calling them every day, wanting to be with them wanting to be with him. And they're meeting more and more, sometimes together, sometimes separately, but they're meeting more and more. Now, Lisa's not showing up every time she's supposed to be showing up to go visit Tim at the rehab place. He can only have visits every other day. And she's missing a day here or a day there, saying that she had to work. But look here. When we get suspicious in the streets, we start calling everywhere. And now he's calling where she works at, and they're saying she didn't show up to work today. All of these different things are going on. So he starts to put two and two together. And he just asked her, what's going on? And by her keeping it 100 in the street, she told him, she said, look, she said, he called me, I went. Me and Rochelle. And he said, you and Rochelle? She was like, yeah, I brought Rochelle in on it. I was trying to put him off on Rochelle so I wouldn't have to do anything. But it ended up he wanted both of us. So Tim's sitting there looking at her. He's getting pissed now because he says, what is this? What's going on? And how long is this going to last? She said, hopefully it'll end when you come home. But for now, I'm just doing what I feel I need to do to make sure you come home. She's not telling him that she's liking the D. She's not telling him that at all. She's not telling him that at all. She's not telling him how she's kissing on him and she's laying in the bed with him after they're finished talking. She's not telling him any of those things. She's not telling him any of that. So Tim, like any other man, he's growing suspicious because he's like, look, you do whatever you feel you need to do. Thank you for helping me, but you still need to be coming to visit me. But she still kept missing. She still kept missing. And now when she would miss, he knew why she was missing and it was bothering him. It was driving him crazy because he was imagining her being with him. He was imagining her and Rochelle, all three of them in a menage a trois, enjoying themselves. And he's sitting in this drug rehab center with another month to go before he can even get out. And he doesn't know what to do. And it's becoming harder and harder for him. So he starts to plot. He starts to plot. I'll fix him. That's what he said. I'll get him on. That's what he said. So the month passes by pretty swiftly because he was mainly spending most of that time trying to figure out what he was going to do, how he was going to get even with them. Especially Lisa. Rochelle, he really didn't care. But Lisa, he could tell that she was falling for this dude. And he didn't want that. He didn't want to accept the fact that he put her on this PO. He didn't want to accept that. All he knows that he was hurting and he wanted his lick back. And this is how the streets goes, y'all. This is how the streets go. The streets are very selfish. Very, very selfish. So when he gets out, he's got the same PO. He goes to the PO and he talks to the PO. He thanks him. You got to rock him to sleep, keep him off guard. He thanks him for everything that he's done for him. Thanks him for getting him into the drug rehab facility. Thanks him for taking care of his gal. So the PO looks at him. What do you mean by taking care of your gal? He said, you didn't know? And the PO leans back in the chair. He looks around. He's trying to make sure, wait a minute, what's going on? Because they're at the PO's office. And the PO tells him, look, we'll talk about this later. For now, let's walk. So he takes him to take a piss test. He passed the piss test. And then they go outside of the building. And when they're outside of the building, the PO said, what did you mean by that, taking care of your gal? Tim looks at him and said, man, why do you think she came to you in the first place? I sent her. I told her to do that. And now he looks at him. He feels tricked because Lisa told him that Tim had no knowledge of this. So he felt safe in doing it as long as it stayed between him and Lisa and now Rochelle. Now he feels threatened because Tim knows and he has leverage. And the one thing that a PO never wants the parolee to have over him or her is leverage. But Tim has it now. And there's nothing that the PO can do about it because he does not know to what extent that Lisa is in on this. He thought they had built something. Think about that. His PO had thought that he had built something with this dope boy's girl and Rochelle. You feel me? So he don't know what's going on. So Tim invites him to the house. He tells him, come over tonight and we can lay this all out on the table. He said, I'll be there. So the PO goes over to the house that night, over to the apartment that night. Rochelle, Lisa, and Tim are all there. Everybody's there. They're all there. They're sitting in the kitchen. They're talking. The conversations are getting heated because he's feeling like he's been played. He's been tricked. Lisa's feeling guilty because she starts to have feelings for this dude. She likes him, but she still loves Tim. She don't want to see him get in trouble and lose his job because he did this for her. So she's trying to tell Tim to calm down, but Tim is looking at it like, why are you taking his side? I didn't tell you to keep having sex with him. He hits her with that. She looks at him and she doesn't know what to say. She looks at Rochelle and Rochelle said, I'll say it. I'll say it. The dick is good. That's why she kept doing it. She don't want to tell you, but the dick is good. So now Tim, he leans back and he looks at all of them. He gets up and he walks out. He goes into the bedroom, shuts the door. And while he's in the bedroom, he's sitting on the bed and he's trying to plan and plot. And he's thinking, what do I do? What do I do? And here comes Lisa. She comes into the bedroom. She crawls up on the bed. She gets behind him and she wraps her legs around him and she hugs him. She said, baby, everything's going to be okay. That's over with. That's done. That's over with. And he says, it'll never be over with me. And he shakes her off. And she falls back on the bed. She gets up and walks out of the room. She knows that he's angry beyond anything that she's ever seen. She's never seen him like this. And that's what'll happen when a man knows that somebody is having their way with his. And they ponder on that, y'all. They ponder on it. It's hard for a lot of men to let that go, even if they are the ones that put them up to it. Are you listening to me? Even if they know they are the ones that put them up to it. Don't no man like that. No. No. Not unless they pimp it. Not unless they pimp it. It's a process that a man goes through to get back past that. And it takes time. And he wasn't there yet. And he wanted his lick back some kind of way. He wanted to get even. He wanted to get even. So he goes to sleep that night in the bed by himself. Lisa never comes back into the room. He's laying in the bed. He hears them leaving. Lisa stays. But she doesn't come into the bedroom. She stays in the living room. She sleeps on the couch. He's laying there thinking. And he falls asleep. He wakes up the next morning. He walks out into the living room and she's laying there asleep on the couch. He wakes her up. And he tells her, he said, look, this is what it is. You don't see him no more. She wakes up. She said, okay, baby. I won't see him anymore. What him and Rochelle do, that's what they do. And then Lisa, she says, look, are you going to say anything to get him fired? He said, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to say anything to get him fired. I don't want to see him fired. She said, so what is it that you want? What do you want? He said, I don't know. I don't know what I want. But what I do know is that you don't see him again. And she agreed to that. Now he's still trying to figure out what he wants to do to him. He's really upset about what Rochelle said. Don't no man want to hear that another man is satisfying his woman, even if it's true. Don't no man want to hear that. And Tim didn't want to hear that. But Rochelle said it. And Lisa didn't deny it. She didn't deny it. So now he's trying to figure out what he's going to do to get his lick back. He can't go fuck his guy. He don't know that he's got one. He don't know nothing about him like that. So he can't get his lick back like that. Can't get his lick back like that. He don't want to get him fired because it will bring suspicion on the situation. So he can't do it like that. So he started following behind dude. Start following behind him, right? And he's watching him. He's watching him. And he figures out one thing about dude. Dude like fucking. He like fucking. And he's fucking around with everything and everybody. Fucking around with everything and everybody. So now he catches dude one day coming out of this house. And he pulls him, he tells him, he said, look, man. He said, Rochelle, know you doing. He getting real petty. Tim getting real petty. He said, Rochelle, know you doing that? He's like, man, look, finish your parole, man. Stay out of my business. You fine. Just go on with your life. Tim couldn't let it go. He couldn't let it go. This street dude that got favor, crooked or not, from this PO couldn't let this issue go. He couldn't let it die down. The PO telling him, go on about your business, go on about your business. This sucker, and I'm going to call him that, Tim, couldn't let go. He couldn't let go. So now, he go back and he tell Rochelle and Lisa that he messing around with all these women, like it's a relationship or something that he's got with Rochelle. Rochelle tells him, I don't care. I don't care what he does. I don't care what he does. So now, here we go. Tim goes by the PO's office. And he tells him, he said, I need to talk to you. And the PO don't want to talk to Tim in there ever. So they get up and they leave and he takes them out to eat. They go out to lunch and they're sitting there talking. And while they're talking, the PO gets up and goes to the restroom. When the PO gets up and goes to the restroom, Tim pours something in his drink. PO come back, takes a drink, and now he's all dizzy. Gets all dizzy. Gets all sick. Throws up. Tim takes him out of the place. Throws up. He's telling him his food must have been bad or something like that. He drops him off at his house. PO's fine. Goes to bed. He wakes up the next day, goes to work, and guess what happens? Guess what happens? Fails a piss test. When he failed the piss test, he got fired. Got fired. And now Tim, he knows what's up. Lisa and Rochelle, they're wondering, did he do this? And the PO doesn't put two and two together because he's just not thinking like that. But he tells them he doesn't get high. He doesn't get high. And so now he files an appeal, gets his job back after 30 days because he passes another piss test. They blamed it. It could have been something that he ate or so on and so forth like that. But now he's starting to think that Tim is behind this. Something's going wrong. Tim is not letting up because now he's got his job back and now he's thinking Tim has something to do with it. So he calls Tim in again. And this is how this ends. I'm going to show you how this ends, man. See, a lot of people think that, people will accept anything from you because of the job that they have, right? And that's just not true. This PO, he finally gotten tired of Tim. He said he was done with what Tim was doing. Trying to get him fired, trying to cause problems, this and that. So he told him, he said he was done with Rochelle, he was done with Lisa, and he was done with Tim. He was switching, he was going to get Tim another PO, and then he was going to move on. Tim didn't even like that. So when he came by, it's the PO now, y'all. So when the PO came by the house, the apartment that afternoon, because he wanted to talk to Tim one more time and make sure that he understood what it was, Tim hit him in the face. The PO mopped him with it, mopped the floor with it, mopped the floor, whooped him. And one of the neighbors called the police. The police came by. The PO ends up getting arrested. The PO and Tim end up getting arrested. Tim gets violated. The PO gets arrested, loses his job. And then they find out that the PO was the one that convinced the judge to give Tim the drug treatment program as opposed to violating him and sending him back to the penitentiary for 8 years. So now that came into question. They rescinded that. Now Tim is sitting in jail waiting on a revocation hearing to determine if he's going to have to go back to prison or not. So he agrees to testify against the parole officer, that the parole officer helped him by having sex with his girlfriend and her friend. Lisa and Rochelle show up to court. They mad because he done put them on blast because he's the one that set this in motion. And they testify on behalf of the parole officer. Now Tim is sitting there looking silly, stupid, on his way back to the penitentiary because the administrators, they found in favor of the parole officer there's too much bullcrap going on with it. You know what I'm saying? And the two people that he was supposed to have been having sex with to get this deal done said that it didn't happen. Now Tim's looking stupid and on his way back to the penitentiary. And I said all that to say this. Ain't no right way to do wrong. I've said that before, I'll say it again. When I first heard about this story, I'm listening, there's too many twists and turns to it. I said, this ain't even making sense. Why wouldn't he just walk away? He's gotten his girl to do what he asked her to do. Yeah, she liked the dick, but he couldn't deal with that. He couldn't walk away. He couldn't walk away. See, a lot of people claim to be about this life. And I've said this before, I'll say it again. You don't even understand what this life is about. How much this life will turn you into somebody that you're not intended to be. And when he found out that his girl had done what he asked and continued to do it because she liked it, he couldn't handle it. And he crashed the whole thing. All I'm saying is there ain't no right way to do wrong. Ain't no right way to do wrong. If this don't happen, if Tim ain't selling drugs and get caught in the wrong place. You understand what I'm saying? So go all the way back to that. Don't talk about what Lisa and Rochelle and them did. And the PO, for that matter. Go all the way back to what he was doing. I'm about personal responsibility. It started with him. It didn't start with them. Keep that in mind, y'all. I'm telling you, stop blaming others for your situation and think back to when you set those dominoes up and knocked them down. Okay? And take your weight. This has been another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker, and I say peace, y'all.